The morning Lynn disappeared started like any other terrible morning in our house. I was making breakfast, trying to pretend everything was normal, while my 17-year-old daughter sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with that look of complete indifference she'd perfected over the past year. The eggs sizzled in the pan, and I remember thinking how the sound filled the silence between us like static on an old radio. "We need to talk about what I found in your room," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. She didn't look up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The pills, Lynn. The bag of pills I found under your mattress." That got her attention. Her eyes snapped up to meet mine, and for a moment, I saw my little girl again. Scared, vulnerable, caught. But then the mask slipped back on, that hard expression that made her look so much older than 17. "You went through my stuff?" Her voice was ice. "I'm your mother. When I see you stumbling home at 3 in the morning, when your grades drop from straight A's to barely passing, when you stop talking to your old friends, yes, I go through your stuff." She stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. "You have no right." "I have every right. You're my daughter and you're destroying yourself. You don't know anything about me." She was screaming now, her face red, tears starting to form in her eyes. "You never have! You just want me to be your perfect little doll, going to college, becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or whatever dream you couldn't achieve yourself." The words stung because there was truth in them. I had pushed her hard. Too hard, maybe. All those years of piano lessons she hated, the tutoring sessions, the college prep courses. But I just wanted her to have opportunities I never had. "I want you to be safe," I said, my voice breaking. "I want you to be alive." "Well, maybe I don't want to be your version of alive." She grabbed her backpack from the counter. "Maybe I'm tired of pretending to be someone I'm not, just to make you happy." "Lynn, please." "No, Mom, I'm done. I'm so done with this." She headed for the door, and I followed, grabbing her arm. She yanked it away with such force that I stumbled backward. "Don't touch me! Don't follow me! Just leave me alone!" The door slammed so hard, the picture frames on the wall shook. I stood there in the hallway, staring at that closed door, telling myself she'd be back by dinner. She always came back, but she didn't come back for dinner, or the next day, or the next week. At first, I was angry. Let her cool off, I thought. She's staying with a friend, trying to scare me. But when her best friend Sarah called asking if Lynn was okay because she hadn't been at school, my anger turned to fear. I called everyone, her friends, their parents, distant relatives. I drove around town looking for her, checking the mall, the park, all her favorite spots. Nothing. The police said she was 17, probably a runaway. And unless there was evidence of foul play, there wasn't much they could do. They took her information, put her in the system, and told me most runaways come home within a week. A week turned into a month. A month turned into 6 months. 6 months turned into a year, then 2, then 4. I became someone I didn't recognize. Every morning, I'd wake up and check my phone, hoping for a message, a call, anything. I'd walk into her room, kept exactly as she left it, and sit on her bed, holding the teddy bear she'd had since she was 3. Mr. Buttons, she called him. Even as a teenager, she'd kept him on her shelf, a remnant of the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I hired a private investigator with my savings. He found traces, a girl matching her description seen in Phoenix, then Denver, then nothing. The trail went cold. I joined support groups for parents of missing children, but their stories terrified me more than comforted me. Some had been searching for decades. Some had found their children dead. Some never found them at all. My husband, Lynn's stepfather, tried to be supportive at first, but as the months wore on, I could see the strain in his eyes. "Deborah, you have to start living again," he'd say. "We don't know if she's ever coming back." "She's coming back," I'd insist. "A mother knows." But did I know? Late at night, when the house was quiet and the darkness pressed in from all sides, I'd wonder if she was even alive. The statistics haunted me. Runaways often ended up trafficked, addicted, dead. I pushed these thoughts away, but they always crept back in those lonely hours before dawn. I kept her cell phone active, paying the bill every month even though it never rang. I left voicemails on it sometimes, just talking to her like she might listen to them someday. "Hi, sweetie. It's Mom. I just wanted you to know I love you. I'm sorry for everything. Please come home." Then, one Tuesday evening, everything changed. I was cooking dinner, the same eggs I'd been making that morning she left, a meal that had become my strange ritual of penance, when my husband called me from the living room. "Deborah, you need to see this." His voice had a strange quality to it, careful and measured, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. I turned off the stove and walked into the living room where he was watching the news. "In a special investigation tonight, we go undercover into the dangerous world of sex trafficking in Los Angeles. Warning, some images may be disturbing to viewers." "Why are you showing me?" I started to say. But then I saw her. It was just a glimpse, maybe 2 seconds of footage. A girl walking down a street, her face turned partially toward the camera as she looked over her shoulder. The quality was grainy, shot from a distance, but I knew. A mother knows her child's walk, the way she holds her shoulders, the tilt of her head. "That's Lynn," I whispered, my legs giving out as I sank onto the couch. "Deborah, we can't be sure." "That's Lynn." I rewound the footage, paused it on her face. She was thinner, her hair dyed black instead of her natural brown, heavy makeup that made her look older, but it was her. My baby girl was alive, but but the context of where I'd found her made my stomach turn. The reporter was talking about a notorious area known for prostitution, about young girls controlled by pimps, about violence and drugs and death. My Lynn was there, in that world, in that nightmare. I was on a plane to Los Angeles the next morning. My husband tried to convince me to wait, to contact the police, to think it through, but I couldn't wait another second. 4 years of waiting was enough. I knew where my daughter was, and I was going to bring her home. LAX was overwhelming, a sea of people rushing in every direction, nobody making eye contact, everyone focused on their own destination. I'd been to Los Angeles once before, years ago, for a conference. It had seemed glamorous then, full of possibility. Now it felt like a predator, a city that had swallowed my daughter whole. I checked into a cheap motel near the area where the news report had been filmed. The clerk at the desk, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, looked at me with suspicion when I gave her cash. "You here alone, honey?" she asked. "Yes." "Business or pleasure?" "I'm looking for someone." Something in my voice must have told her everything because her expression softened. "Missing kid?" I nodded, unable to speak. "Lot of parents come through here looking. Be careful out there, especially at night. This ain't a safe area for someone like you." Someone like me, a 52-year-old suburban mother who'd never been in a fight in her life, whose biggest rebellion had been switching from regular to decaf without telling anyone. But I'd become someone different the day Lynn disappeared. I'd become someone who would walk through hell if it meant finding her daughter. That first night, I walked the streets the news report had shown. It was a different world after dark. Girls who looked impossibly young stood on corners, their eyes vacant, their smiles forced. Cars would slow down, windows would roll down, negotiations would happen in whispers. I showed Lynn's picture to anyone who would look. The girls, the homeless people camping in doorways, the liquor store clerks. "Never seen her," they all said, but some of them said it too quickly, their eyes darting away. On the third night, I saw her. She was standing outside a run-down apartment building, smoking a cigarette, wearing a short dress despite the cool evening air. I froze on the sidewalk across the street, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my chest. She was so thin, her cheekbones sharp under the streetlight, but it was her, alive, real, just 50 feet away from me. I started to cross the street, but a hand grabbed my arm. A woman, maybe 30, with bleached blonde hair and knowing eyes. "You don't want to do that," she said quietly. "That's my daughter. I know, I can see it in your face, but if you approach her here, now, you'll spook her. Or worse, you'll alert her handler." "Her handler?" The woman nodded toward a car parked nearby, guy in the black sedan. "He watches all the girls. You go near her, he'll move her somewhere else, somewhere you'll never find her." "Then what do I do?" The woman studied me for a moment. "She takes a break around 2 a.m., goes to the all-night diner, 2 blocks down. Meet her there. Away from watching eyes." I waited in that diner for 3 hours, nursing cup after cup of coffee that tasted like burnt rubber, my eyes fixed on the door. Every time it opened, my heart would leap, then sink when it wasn't her. The waitress, a woman named Rosa with kind eyes and a slight accent, kept refilling my cup without being asked. "You waiting for someone, sweetheart?" she finally asked around 1:45 a.m. "My daughter." She nodded like this explained everything. Maybe in this part of Los Angeles it did. At 2:17 a.m., Lynn walked in. She looked exhausted, older than her 21 years, her makeup smudged, her dress wrinkled. She headed straight for a booth in the back corner without looking around. I stood up on shaking legs and walked over, sliding into the seat across from her before I could lose my nerve. She looked up, and for a moment, her face went completely blank. Then a parade of emotions crossed it. Shock, fear, anger, and something that might have been relief before it was quickly suppressed. "Mom?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Hi, baby. You can't be here. You have to leave, now." She started to stand, but I reached across the table and grabbed her hand. Her skin was cold, too cold. "Lynn, please. I've been looking for you for 4 years. Please, just talk to me. You don't understand. If he sees you." Who will see me?" "Mom, please, just go. Pretend you never saw me." "I can't do that. You're my daughter. Whatever trouble you're in, we can fix it. Just come with me, right now. We'll walk out that door and get on a plane and go home." She laughed, but it was a broken sound. "Home? I can't go home. Don't you get it? I can't ever go home." "Why? Whatever you've done, whatever's happened, we can work through it. It's not what I've done, it's what—" "God, Mom, you have no idea how this works. These people, they don't just let you leave. They know where you live, where your family lives. If I disappear, they'll come looking. And they won't just come for me." My blood ran cold. "Are you saying they'd hurt us?" "I'm saying they'd do whatever it takes to make an example out of me, to show the other girls what happens when you try to leave. Then we'll go to the police." "The police?" She laughed again. "Half of them are customers. The other half don't care about girls like me. You're not girls like you. You're Lynn Morrison. You're my daughter. You graduated with honors." "That was a different person, Mom. That girl is dead." "No, she's not. I can see her right there in your eyes." For a moment, her tough facade cracked, and she was 17 again, scared and lost. A tear rolled down her cheek, leaving a trail through her makeup. "I'm so sorry, Mom, for everything. For the things I said, for leaving, for becoming this. You have nothing to apologize for. Just come with me, please. She looked toward the window, and her whole body tensed. Oh God, he's here. I followed her gaze and saw a man getting out of a black sedan, the same one the woman had pointed out earlier. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, handsome in a dangerous way, with cold eyes that scanned the diner windows. Go out the back, Lynn whispered urgently. Rosa will show you. Go now, and don't come back. Please, Mom. If you love me, go. Lynn, go! Rosa grabbed my arm and practically dragged me through the kitchen and out the back door into an alley that reeked of garbage and urine. We could hear raised voices from inside the diner, the man's voice angry, Lynn's voice placating. You need to leave, Rosa said. Now. I can't leave her. You can't help her if you're dead. And that's what you'll be if Marcus finds out who you are. Marcus. The handler had a name now, making him real, making the danger real. I made it back to my motel and spent the rest of the night pacing, trying to figure out what to do. I called the police, but they said without Lynn willing to testify or evidence of a crime being committed, there was nothing they could do. I called the FBI's trafficking hotline, but they said they needed more information, that these operations were complex, that it could take months or years to build a case. I didn't have months or years. My daughter was out there, trapped, and every night she spent in that life was killing her bit by bit. So I did the only thing I could do. I stayed, and I watched, and I learned. I found out that Marcus ran several girls, that he was part of a larger network, that he was violent but smart, careful not to leave marks that would be bad for business. I learned this from the other women on the streets, the ones who'd been there long enough to know how things worked. Some of them tried to warn me off, others helped when they could, slipping me information in exchange for food or a few dollars. There was one woman, Destiny, who'd been on the streets for 10 years. She told me about girls who'd tried to run and what happened to them. The stories made me sick, but I needed to hear them, needed to understand what Lynn was facing. Your girl, she's lucky in a way, Destiny said one night as we sat in the 24-hour laundromat that had become my unofficial headquarters. Marcus, he's possessive, but he's not the worst. Some of these guys, they'll sell a girl to anyone, make them do things. Marcus keeps his girls for regular clients. Safer that way. Still horrible, but safer. How is any of this safe? It's not, but there are degrees of hell, you know? I knew. I was living in one of them. 3 weeks into my search, I got a break. One of the girls, a teenager who couldn't have been older than 16, approached me outside the motel. You're Lynn's mom, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. She wants to see you. Tomorrow, noon, at the public library on 5th Street. Come alone and make sure no one follows you. Before I could ask anything else, she was gone, disappearing into the maze of streets like a ghost. The next day, I arrived at the library an hour early, terrified it was a trap, but more terrified of missing the chance to see Lynn. I wandered the stacks, pretending to browse, my heart racing every time someone walked past. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to find Lynn standing there, wearing jeans and a hoodie, looking more like the daughter I remembered than the stranger I'd seen on the street. Mom. I pulled her into a hug before she could say anything else, holding her so tight I could feel how thin she'd become, could count her ribs through the hoodie. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed into me, her body shaking with silent sobs. We sat in the furthest corner of the library, speaking in whispers, her eyes constantly darting toward the entrance. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. How did you get away, I asked. He thinks I'm at the clinic. I told him I might be pregnant. She said it so matter-of-factly that it broke my heart. Gives me a few hours. Are you pregnant? No, not anymore. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Oh, baby. Don't, please. I can't fall apart right now. I wanted to ask so many questions. How she'd ended up here. What had happened in the 4 years she'd been gone. How I could help her escape. But I could see she was holding herself together by threads, and one wrong word might make her run again. I've been trying to find a way out, she said quietly. For you. Seeing you that night. God, Mom, I never thought I'd see you again. I thought it would be easier if you just thought I was dead. How could that be easier? Because then you could mourn and move on, instead of this. Whatever this is. This is me fighting for my daughter. She smiled sadly. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm not anyone. I'm just property. You're not property. You're a human being. You're my little girl who used to make up songs about butterflies and insisted on wearing her tutu to grocery stores. That little girl made stupid choices. She thought she knew everything, thought she could handle anything. She was an idiot. She was 17. All 17-year-olds think they're invincible. Lynn was quiet for a moment, picking at a hole in her jeans. You want to know how it happened, don't you? How I went from running away to this. Only if you want to tell me. She took a deep breath. After I left, I went to Phoenix. I had some money saved, thought I could get a job, start over. But no one wants to hire a 17-year-old with no experience and no address. Money ran out fast. I was sleeping in my car until it got impounded. Then I was just sleeping wherever I could. Parks, abandoned buildings, sometimes shelters when they had space. She paused, lost in the memory. I met this guy, Derek. He seemed nice, had his own place, offered to let me crash for a few nights. I was so tired, Mom. So tired of being scared and hungry and alone. He was kind at first, bought me clothes, took me to restaurants, made me feel special, you know, like someone actually cared. I knew where this was going, but I let her continue. After a couple of weeks, he started talking about how expensive everything was, how I needed to contribute. He had a friend who needed a date for a party, would pay good money just for me to be arm candy. Nothing more, he promised. Just smile and look pretty. Easy money. But it wasn't just that. No, tredesentiment positivtate. It was never just that. By the time I realized what was really happening, it was too late. He'd gotten me hooked on pills for anxiety, he said, to help me relax around clients. Then it was harder stuff. Then one day I woke up and realized I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. Where would I go? What would I do? I was an addict and a prostitute. Who would want me? I would. I do. Marcus bought me from Derek 6 months ago, like I was a car or something. Derek owed him money, and I was payment. The casual horror of it made me want to scream, to find these men and make them pay. But I kept my voice steady. We can get you help. There are programs, safe houses. I've tried. You think you're the first person to try to save me? There was a social worker, a cop who actually cared, a church group. You know what happened to them? The social worker got transferred after her car got vandalized. The cop got shot in a random drive-by. The church group's van mysteriously caught fire. Marcus doesn't make idle threats, Mom. Before I could respond, Lynn's phone buzzed. Her face went pale as she read the message. I have to go. Lynn, wait. He knows I'm not at the clinic. Someone saw me. She stood up, panic in her eyes. Mom, you have to leave Los Angeles. Tonight. Promise me. I'm not leaving without you. Then you'll leave in a body bag. Mom, please, I'm begging you. Go home, forget you found me. She started to walk away, but I grabbed her arm. I will never forget you. I will never stop fighting for you. Do you understand me? Never. For a moment, she looked at me with such love and pain that it took my breath away. Then she pulled free and ran, leaving me standing alone in the library, surrounded by stories with happy endings while living in one that seemed destined for tragedy. I didn't leave Los Angeles. I couldn't leave. Instead, I became smarter, more careful. I moved to a different motel across town, changed my appearance, cut and dyed my hair, bought different clothes, wore sunglasses everywhere. I became someone else, someone who could blend into the shadows of the city. I met another mother named Patricia, whose son had disappeared into the same world. We became allies, sharing information, watching each other's backs. Patricia had been searching for 3 years and had learned how to navigate this underworld, which cops to avoid, which social workers actually cared, which areas were safe to search and which would get you killed. The system isn't designed to save these kids, Patricia told me one night as we sat in her car, watching the streets. It's designed to contain them, to keep them in certain areas where they won't bother the good citizens. As long as they stay in their lane, nobody cares. How do you keep going? I asked. Because what's the alternative? Give up? Go home and pretend my son isn't out here somewhere, needing me? She was right. There was no alternative. 2 months passed. I caught glimpses of Lynn occasionally, always from a distance, always careful not to be seen. She looked worse each time, thinner, more hollow. The girl I'd raised was disappearing, replaced by someone who moved through the world like a ghost. Then, one night, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer. Mom? Lynn's voice was weak, frightened. Lynn, where are you? I'm at the hospital, Cedars-Sinai. I tried to. Marcus beat me pretty bad. Someone called an ambulance. I'm coming. Mom, I'm ready. I'm ready to leave. I can't do this anymore. I'd rather be dead than live like this. Don't say that. I'm on my way. I drove to the hospital, breaking every speed limit, my hands shaking on the wheel. This was it. Our chance. Hospitals had security, social workers, people who could help. We could make a plan, get her somewhere safe. But when I arrived at the hospital and asked for Lynn Morrison, the nurse looked confused. We don't have anyone by that name. She would have come in by ambulance, assault victim, about an hour ago. The nurse checked again. I'm sorry, ma'am. No one matching that description. My phone rang again. This time it was a different voice. Male. Cold. She's not there anymore. Nice try, though. You've been causing a lot of trouble, Mom. Time for you to go home. Where is she? What have you done with her? She's alive. She'll stay that way as long as you disappear. You have 24 hours to leave Los Angeles. If you're still here tomorrow night, she pays the price. And trust me, you don't want to know what that price is. The line went dead. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot for hours, torn between my desperate need to find Lynn and the terror that my presence was putting her in more danger. Patricia found me there at dawn, somehow knowing where I'd be. They called you, she said. It wasn't a question. They have her. They said if I don't leave. They always say that. It's how they control us. Fear. What if they hurt her because of me? Patricia was quiet for a moment. My son called me once, 2 years ago, said the same thing. Leave or they'd kill him. I left. You know what happened? Nothing changed. He was still trapped, still suffering, and I was hundreds of miles away, helpless. At least here, we're fighting. At least here, there's hope. She was right, but that didn't make the choice easier. I spent the day paralyzed with indecision, and then, as the 24-hour deadline approached, my phone rang again. It was Lynn. Mom, I'm okay. I'm at a shelter, a real one, Sacred Heart on Alameda. Can you come? I wanted to believe it was real, but after the hospital trap, I was suspicious. How do I know this isn't another trick? Remember Mr. Buttons? You used to make him talk in that funny voice when I was scared. You'd say, everything's going to be button-tastic. God, I hated that joke, but I'd laugh anyway. It was her. Only Lynn would know that. Sacred Heart was a women's shelter run by nuns, one of the few places in the city that actually tried to help women escape the life. The building was nondescript, purposely unmarked to protect the women inside. Sister Catherine, an elderly nun with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, met me at the door. You're Lynn's mother, she said. She's been asking for you. Lynn was in a small room, sitting on a narrow bed, her face bruised but her eyes clearer than I'd seen them in months. When she saw me, she started crying. I ran, she said through her tears. After the hospital, when they were moving me, I just ran. I didn't think I'd make it, but some woman found me, brought me here. The sisters, they don't ask questions. They just help. I held her while she cried, feeling her body shake with the effort of releasing years of pain and fear. She was so thin I could feel every bone, but she was alive and she was here, and for the moment, she was safe. We're going to get you help, I said. Real help. Rehab, therapy, whatever you need. I want to get clean, she said. I want to remember who I was before all this. Sister Catherine helped us navigate the system, but it was more complicated than I'd imagined. Lynn needed medical detox, psychological treatment, protection from Marcus and his network. Most programs had waiting lists months long, or required insurance we didn't have, or wouldn't accept someone with her history. The system isn't built for girls like me, Lynn said after another rejection. I'm too damaged, too dangerous, too much of a liability. You're not any of those things, I insisted. But I was beginning to understand the truth of her words. Every door we knocked on seemed to close in our faces. We finally found a program that would take her, but it was in Arizona, and they couldn't admit her for 2 weeks. 2 weeks felt like a lifetime when every moment on the street was dangerous. The shelter could only keep her for 3 more days. They had limited space and other women waiting. We'll get a hotel, I said, somewhere far from here, where Marcus won't find us. Lynn looked skeptical but didn't argue. She was exhausted. The fight drained out of her. The drugs were leaving her system, and she was sick, sweating, shaking, vomiting. I held her hair back, brought her water, told her stories about when she was little, trying to remind her of who she'd been before the world broke her. We found a motel in Pasadena, far from Marcus's territory. I paid cash, used a fake name, kept the curtains drawn. Lynn slept fitfully, crying out in her dreams, reaching for drugs that weren't there. I stayed awake, watching her breathe, terrified that if I closed my eyes, she'd disappear again. On the 3rd night, she was finally able to keep down some soup. We sat on the bed watching old movies on the grainy television, and for a moment, it felt almost normal, like we were just a mother and daughter on a strange vacation, not refugees from a nightmare. I used to think about you all the time, Lynn said quietly, especially at night. I'd imagine you making your terrible spaghetti. Remember how you always overcooked it? And Dad complaining about the news being too loud and everything being normal and safe. It can be that way again. No, it can't. Too much has happened. I've done too many things, Mom. Things that can't be undone. You survived. That's all that matters. She looked at me with eyes far too old for 21. Sometimes surviving isn't enough. Sometimes the person who survives isn't the person who started the journey. Then we'll love who you are now. We'll help you become whoever you want to be next. What if I don't know who that is? Then we'll figure it out together. She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. You always were stupidly optimistic. It's not stupid if it works. That night, she asked if we could go for a walk. She'd been cooped up in the room for days and needed air. I was hesitant, but she seemed so much better, and we'd been so careful. What could a short walk hurt? We walked through a small park near the motel, the air cool and clear. Lynn talked about random things, a dog she'd made friends with on the streets, a library where she'd sometimes go to feel normal, a woman who'd given her a sandwich once when she was starving, small kindnesses that had kept her human in an inhuman situation. I want to go back to school, she said suddenly. When I'm clean, when I'm better. Maybe community college at first. I always liked English. Maybe I could be a teacher. You'd be a wonderful teacher. I could help kids like me, the ones who think they know everything but don't know anything. Maybe I could stop them before they fall. That's a beautiful goal. We walked back to the motel, making plans, where she'd live during treatment, how we'd handle the legal issues, what she'd need to start over. For the first time in 4 years, the future seemed possible. When we got back to the room, I went to shower while Lynn said she wanted to journal. The shelter had given her a notebook and suggested she write down her thoughts. When I came out of the bathroom 15 minutes later, she was gone. The window was open, curtains billowing in the breeze. Her journal was on the bed, open to a page where she'd written, I make it of the clode of content it was like preview to that, and then first hate of the face serve like for mine. Mom, I'm sorry. I thought I could do this, but I can't. Every minute I'm with you, I'm putting you in danger. Marcus will never stop looking for me, and when he finds me, and he will find me, he'll hurt you to punish me. I can't let that happen. You gave me 3 beautiful days of feeling human again, of feeling loved. That's more than I thought I'd ever have. Please don't look for me anymore. Please go home and try to remember the little girl with the tutu, not the broken woman I became. I love you more than words can say. Lynn. I ran out of the room, searched the park, the streets, called her name, until my voice was hoarse, but she was gone, vanished into the Los Angeles night like smoke. I searched for 3 more days, but it was like she'd never existed. None of her usual spots, none of the girls had seen her. Even Marcus's corner was empty. Word was he'd been arrested on unrelated charges, his girls scattered to the wind. Lynn could be anywhere. Patricia convinced me to go home. Sometimes, she said, loving them means letting them go, means trusting that the love you've given them will be enough to carry them through. I didn't want to believe her, but I was exhausted, physically, emotionally, financially. I'd been in Los Angeles for almost 4 months, and I was no closer to saving Lynn than when I'd arrived. Maybe I was even further away. I flew home to silence. My husband tried to comfort me, but what was there to say? I'd found my daughter and lost her again. I'd been so close to saving her, and I'd failed. I went back to work, back to my life, but nothing felt real. I was going through the motions, existing rather than living. Every time the phone rang, my heart would race. Every young woman on the street made me look twice. I kept Lynn's journal with me always, reading her words over and over, looking for clues I might have missed. 2 weeks after I returned home, my phone rang at 3 a.m. It was a Los Angeles number. "Is this Deborah Morrison?" The voice was official, careful. "Yes. Ma'am, this is Detective Riley with the LAPD. I'm sorry to call at this hour, but we've found your daughter." My heart stopped. "Is she?" "She's at County General. Ma'am, you should come as soon as possible." I was on the first flight out, praying the entire way that "you should come as soon as possible" didn't mean what I thought it meant. My husband wanted to come with me, but I told him to wait. I needed to do this alone, needed to face whatever was waiting for me at that hospital without having to be strong for anyone else. County General was a maze of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. Detective Riley met me in the lobby, a tired-looking man in his 50s with kind eyes that had seen too much. "She's in the ICU," he said gently. "She was found in an alley off Sunset, overdose. The paramedics were able to restart her heart, but? She's been without oxygen for a long time, Mrs. Morrison. The doctors, they're not optimistic." He led me through corridors that seemed endless, past rooms filled with other people's tragedies, until we reached the ICU. Lynn was in bed 3, connected to machines that breathed for her, that kept her heart beating, that did all the things her body could no longer do on its own. She looked peaceful. That was my first thought. For the first time since I'd found her again, she looked peaceful. No fear in her face, no pain, no desperation, just sleep. "The drugs were laced with fentanyl," Detective Riley explained. "We're seeing a lot of this lately. Users think they're taking one thing, but it's cut with something much stronger." "She was trying to get clean," I said, touching her hand. It was still warm. "She wanted to be a teacher." "I'm sure she did, ma'am. These kids, they all want something better. The streets just don't let them have it." I sat with her for 3 days. I talked to her, sang the lullabies I used to sing when she was little, told her about Mr. Buttons and butterfly songs and all the dreams I'd had for her. The doctors ran tests, spoke in hushed tones about brain activity and response levels. On the 3rd day, they told me what I already knew. She wasn't coming back. "There's no higher brain function," the doctor said, trying to be gentle. "The machines are all that's keeping her body alive." I knew what they were asking. I knew what Lynn would want. She'd told me herself, sometimes surviving isn't enough. Sometimes you have to know when to let go. "Can I have a few more hours?" I asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." I spent those hours memorizing her face, the shape of her hands, the way her hair fell across the pillow. I told her I loved her, that I forgave her, that she had nothing to be sorry for. I told her it was okay to go, that I would be okay, even though I wasn't sure that was true. When the nurses came to turn off the machines, I held her hand and sang the song I used to sing when she was scared. "Sunshine, sunshine, go away. Nighttime's here and here to stay. Close your eyes and dream of day. Mommy's here, it's all okay." She took 3 breaths on her own, soft and quiet, and then she was gone. The funeral was small. My husband, a few family members, Sarah, and some of Lynn's old friends from high school who still remembered the girl she used to be. Patricia flew in from Los Angeles, the only person who truly understood what the last 4 years had been like. We didn't have many words to say. What was there to say? Lynn had been lost long before she died. I went back to her room after the service, starting the impossible task of sorting through her things. In her old jewelry box, hidden under a tangle of necklaces she'd worn in middle school, I found a stack of letters addressed to me, never sent. They were dated over the years she'd been gone. The first one, written just days after she'd run away. "Dear Mom, I'm in Phoenix. I'm safe. I'm angry at you, but I love you. I'm sorry I left the way I did. I just needed to breathe. I'll come home soon, when I figure things out. Love, Lynn." Another 6 months later, "Dear Mom, things are harder than I thought they'd be. I'm scared a lot. I dream about your spaghetti and Dad's complaints about the news. I want to call, but I'm too proud, too ashamed. Maybe next month. Love, Lynn." From a year in, "Dear Mom, I'm in trouble. Real trouble. I don't know how to get out. I think about coming home every day, but I can't read a now. Not like this. You wouldn't recognize me anymore. I don't recognize me anymore. Love, Lynn." The last one, dated just a week before I'd seen her on the news. "Dear Mom, I saw a woman today who looked like you. Same way of walking, same tilt of her head when she was thinking. I almost ran after her, almost called out, 'Mom,' but what would I say? 'Hi, Mom, I'm a prostitute and a drug addict. Want to grab coffee?' I know you think I left because of you, because you pushed too hard, expected too much. But that's not true. I left because I was 17 and stupid, and thought I knew everything. You were just trying to protect me from exactly this. If I could go back, I'd hug you that morning instead of screaming. I'd eat your terrible, overcooked spaghetti with a smile. I'd let you push me toward college and a normal life, and all those boring, beautiful things I thought were prison, but were actually safety. I think about writing to you for real, calling you, showing up at the door, but then I think about what I've become and I can't. You deserve better than what I am now. You deserve the daughter who was going to be a doctor or a lawyer, not the one who became nothing. But know this, you were the best mother I could have asked for. Every kind thing I still have in me. Every moment I choose not to give up completely. It's because of you. That's because of you." In every example, different later to the 5 sent him. Because somewhere deep inside, I can still hear you saying, I love you, sunshine. Maybe someday I'll find my way back. Maybe someday I'll be someone you can be proud of again. Until then, just know that I love you. I love you so much. It hurts. Forever your sunshine, Lynn. I sat on her bed, holding those letters, crying until I couldn't breathe. She'd loved me. Through all of it, she'd loved me. She'd just loved me too much to let me see what she'd become. The woman from the diner in Los Angeles, Rosa, sent me a message a month later. Your daughter helped another girl get out, she wrote. Gave her money she'd saved, told her about the shelter, told her not to end up like her. That girl made it home to her family. Thought you should know, your Lynn saved someone. I think about that often. That maybe Lynn's story, as tragic as it was, wasn't meaningless. That maybe she did become a teacher, in her own way, showing one girl what happens when you fall and can't find your way back up. I still go into her room sometimes. Mr. Buttons still sits on the shelf. Her journal is in the nightstand drawer, along with the letters she never sent. The room is a shrine to two people, the girl she was and the woman she became. I love them both. I mourn them both. People ask me sometimes if I regret going to Los Angeles, if I wish I'd just left her alone. The answer is no. Those 3 days in the motel, when she smiled and made plans and felt human again, those were worth everything. She died knowing absolutely that she was loved, that someone fought for her, that she mattered. That has to be enough, because it's all I have. My name is Deborah Morrison. My daughter Lynn died at 21 years old. She was brilliant and broken, lost and loved. She was my sunshine, even in the darkness. And this is our story.